Hi students, I am Dr. Bhavana. In this lecture we are going to deal with digestion and absorption. In the previous lecture we have dealt with digestion and absorption, that is the alimentary canal and its associated glands. In this lecture purely we are going to deal with digestion and absorption. So what is digestion? Digestion, it is the process in which complex substances are broken down into simpler molecules. Complex substances like biomacromolecules, whatever food we consume, those all are broken down into simpler molecules by the process known as digestion. So this digestion is mainly of two types. That is, digestion takes place by two processes. That is mechanical process as well as chemical process. Initially, the food enters from mouth into buccal cavity. From buccal cavity, the food enters into pharynx. Then into thin long tube, that is esophagus. From esophagus, it enters into stomach. From the stomach, it enters into small intestine. That is, small intestine has three parts. That is C-shaped duodenum. Next, jejunum. As well as ileum. Ileum is highly coiled structure. From ileum, it enters into, this is ileum. From ileum, it enters into large intestine. Large intestine is mainly composed of again three parts. That is cecum, colon, as well as finally rectum. And it enters out through anus. In the previous digestion and absorption, we have dealt about all these in detail, about from how food passes from mouth into buccal cavity. But for those who have not seen the video, who have missed that, that's why I am briefing here. From mouth into buccal cavity, into pharynx, then into esophagus, stomach, then small intestine as well as large intestine. So this digestion takes place by two processes. Initially in the buccal cavity, that is in the buccal cavity, it has two structures mainly, teeth as well as tongue. These two parts help in mastication of the food, means they help in chewing of food. These teeth and tongue, they help in mastication of food. Along with the teeth and tongue, saliva also plays a very important role. The mucus that is present in the saliva helps in formation of food bolus. So what is bolus? Bolus means all the particles are mixed and they form a round structure that is known as bolus. The bolus is formed for easy passage of food into the large intestine. So this food bolus is formed. So mainly the buccal cavity has two functions. That is, it plays an important role in mastication of food as well as swallowing of food. It plays an important role in mastication as well as swallowing of food. These two main processes are present in the buccal cavity. So first, initially, the digestion takes place by two processes. That is through mechanical process as well as chemical process. From food enters through mouth into buccal cavity, then pharynx into esophagus, stomach, small intestine as well as large intestine. The teeth and tongue that are present in the buccal cavity plays an important role in mastication of food and the mucus in the saliva also plays a very important role along with the teeth and tongue. They help in formation of food bolus. What are the main functions of buccal cavity? Important neat question. What are the main functions? They help in mastication of food, that is chewing. So mainly the saliva, it contains numerous enzymes. Mainly it consists of salivary amylase as well as it consists of lysozyme. These are the two main enzymes which are present in the saliva. Saliva also contains numerous electrolytes like sodium, potassium, chlorine. Numerous electrolytes are present in the saliva. Whereas there are enzymes also which are present, that is salivary amylase as well as lysozyme. This salivary amylase converts 30% of starch. It converts 30% of starch into maltose. This amylase. So what is starch? Starch means the carbohydrates which we consume daily. Those are biomacromolecules. They mainly consist of starch. So majority, like 30% of starch is broken down here only. Then rest of that is broken down in the stomach as well as intestine. But mainly how much percent of starch is converted into maltose in the saliva? This is an important neat question they'll ask. Then you should say 30% of starch is converted into maltose by the enzyme known as amylase, that is salivary amylase. Another important neat question, what is the pH of the saliva? The pH of saliva is 6.8. Mainly what is the pH of the saliva? Then they'll give you options 6.8, 7.8 like that. Then pH of the saliva is 6.8. Important neat question. 30% of starch is converted by the salivary amylase. Next, what is the other enzyme which is present? The other enzyme is lysozyme. It plays an important role in antibacterial action. That is antibacterial action. Means whatever the microorganisms which enter through our food into the saliva, this lysozyme plays an important role in antibacterial action. It plays an important role in antibacterial action. So this is mainly about saliva. It contains numerous electrolytes. Enzymes are also present, that is salivary amylase as well as lysozyme. 30% of starch is converted into maltose by amylase. pH is generally 6.8. So this is about the saliva. First, initially we have discussed this saliva helps in formation of food bolus. So this saliva, this food bolus is passed into the pharynx. Then it is also passed into the esophagus. So first, initially it is passed into the pharynx by a process. What is the process? It is passed deglutition. You can also say deglutition as swallowing also. What is the other name of deglutition? Means swallowing also. From pharynx, again this food bolus is passed into the esophagus by a process known as peristalsis. What is peristalsis? There are numerous successive ways of muscular contractions that takes place in the esophagus. Numerous muscular contractions will take place. Then from the pharynx into the esophagus, this peristaltic contractions takes place. So it is known as peristalsis. The two important processes. From buccal cavity, the food bolus is passed into the pharynx through a deglutition or swallowing. Main important neat question. Where does deglutition takes place? It takes place in the pharynx. Where does peristalsis takes place? Peristalsis means successive ways of successive waves of muscular contractions will take place. Then it is known as peristalsis. So from deglutition, and these two are the important processes. From buccal cavity into pharynx as well as into the esophagus, the food is passed. Now from the esophagus, how it is passed into the stomach. Next we are going to deal with digestion of food in the stomach. So mainly the digestion of food in the stomach takes place by gastric glands which are present in the stomach. In the stomach, there are numerous gastric glands which are present. What is the role of these gastric glands? These secrete three types of enzymes. Mainly, these secrete three types. That is, they have mucous neck cells. These gastric glands have mucous neck cells which secrete the mucus. Whereas the other one is they secrete pepsin cells are present. Pepsin cells, they secrete inactive enzyme called as pepsinogen. Whereas the third one is parietal cells. Parietal cells are also known as oxyntic cells. These oxyntic cells play an important role in secretion of vitamin B, intrinsic factor we say. So where is intrinsic factor present? Intrinsic factor, vitamin B12. It is present. It plays an important role in secretion of intrinsic factor. That is, this is the factor for vitamin B12. So mainly the stomach has numerous gastric glands which are present. These gastric glands are mainly of three types. That is, they say mucous neck cells are present. These secrete mucus. Whereas pepsin cells which are present, they secrete pepsinogen. This is an main enzyme of the stomach. What is the main proteolytic enzyme of the stomach? Important neat question. What is the important proteolytic enzyme of the stomach? Is pepsinogen. From where is pepsinogen secreted? From pepsin. Simple. From pepsinogen is secreted from pepsin cells. Whereas parietal or oxyntic cells, they secrete secretion of intrinsic factor. That is the factor for vitamin B12. This is the secretion of intrinsic factor from vitamin B12. So these gastric glands play a very important role. The food mixes thoroughly in the stomach by churning movements. By churning movements which are present in the gastric glands of the stomach, and this is known as chyme. See, so many neat questions are asked in the digestion and absorption of food. Mainly the neat question, these two they won't ask. Mainly they'll ask about parietal cells. These parietal cells help in secretion of intrinsic factor, that is vitamin B12. Whereas what with chyme is where is chyme present? Where it takes place? Means chyme takes place in the stomach. Here, what are the movements that are performed? The food is mixed thoroughly in the stomach with the gastric juice. Then by churning movements, then it is known as chyme. Chyme is mainly present in the stomach. It takes place in the stomach. And about the stomach, mainly there is renin. Enzyme is secreted. See, there are two types of renins. One is single N is present, that we will deal later, that will come in excretory system and all. This is double N. Two N's are present in renin. This is the gastric juice of infants. What is renin? Means gastric juice of infants. Only infants who are newly born, only they will have that enzyme. What this renin plays? This renin plays important role in digestion of milk proteins. Small infants, they will consume more milk. So milk is not digested easily. There should be some enzyme that is present. That enzyme is known as renin, double N. This helping gastric juice of, this is the gastric juice of infants, which help in digestion of milk proteins. So this is about the renin. Next we have another two enzymes known as pepsinogen. Is converted into pepsin. How is pepsin converted into pepsinogen? How is pepsin converted into pepsinogen? That is by HCl, hydrochloric acid. This acid also plays a very important role. What is the acid that is present in the gastric juice? That is in stomach. Means pepsin is converted into pepsinogen by HCl. This again, the proteins which are formed, they are converted into peptones by pepsin. This pepsin acts as an enzyme in conversion of proteins into peptones. HCl converts pepsin into pepsinogen. Pepsin cells, they secrete pepsinogen, whereas pepsin is converted into pepsinogen by hydrochloric acid, HCl. This HCl plays an important role in the gastric juice, whereas this pepsin acts as an enzyme in conversion of proteins into peptones. This pepsin plays a very important role. And what are the more other enzymes that are present in the stomach? That is mucus as well as bicarbonates. Mucus and bicarbonates are also the enzymes that are secreted by the stomach. There are also lipases are also present. Lipases. These lipases also play an important role in the gastric juice. So this is about the stomach mainly. The food is passed. So the food is mainly passed from mouth into the buccal cavity, into pharynx, then into esophagus, then into stomach. The stomach has gastric glands which are present. These gastric glands play an important role in secretion of mucus because they have mucus cells which secrete the mucus, whereas pepsin cells as well as parietal cells are also present. So what is the role of these pepsin cells? They help in secretion of pepsinogen. This pepsinogen is an important enzyme that is required in the gastric juice that is present in the stomach. Next, parietal cells as well as oxyntic cells. They help in secretion of intrinsic factor, that is the factor for vitamin B12. Whereas here HCl is also secreted for parietal as well as oxyntic cells. HCl as well as intrinsic factor, that is for vitamin B12. Next, pepsin is converted into pepsinogen by the process known as, by an enzyme known as HCl, hydrochloric acid. Whereas proteins are converted into peptones by pepsin. Pepsin acts as a, they'll ask you in a NEET. Pepsin helps in conversion of proteins into peptones. So this pepsin plays a very important role. Next, what are the other enzymes that are present in the stomach are mucus, bicarbonates as well as lipases. So the renin is also present. Renin helps in, it's a gastric juice that is present in infants. What is the role of renin? It helps in digestion of the milk proteins. So these are the different enzymes which are present in the stomach. Next we will deal with what are the enzymes that are present in the intestine. So what are the enzymes that are mainly present in the intestine? Bile juice. First one is bile juice. Second one is pancreatic juice. The third is intestinal juice. Bile juice, bile as well as pancreatic duct, that is hepatic duct as well as pancreatic duct, helps in formation of hepatopancreatic duct. This hepatopancreatic duct is in turn, it will go into the duodenum, that is into the small intestine. These two ducts, that is bile duct as well as pancreatic duct, help in formation of hepatopancreatic duct. That is about the digestive glands that are present. Now we will deal in detail about the bile juice, pancreatic juice as well as intestinal juice. In the intestine mainly, it also performs numerous movements. Various types of movements also takes place in the intestine. Like how numerous movements takes place in the stomach. Those movements are churning movements. Those movements are known as chyme. Now in the intestine also like that only, so many movements will takes place. Mainly it has three types of secretions: bile juice, pancreatic as well as intestine. This bile juice helps in secretion of bile salts, bile pigments, as well as cholesterol as well as lipases. So before we are dealing what are lipases are nothing but they act on lipids. Lipids means what? Fats. They act on fats. So bile salts, bile pigments, cholesterol as well as lipases. Numerous enzymes are secreted from this bile juice. Mainly this bile juice helps in emulsification of fats. Means mainly fats are digested through the bile juice. So if you get any disease related to gallbladder or anything, you should not eat the fatty rich foods which are present. So these, because the bile juice only helps in breakdown of fats. If that is absent, gallbladder usually stores the bile juice. If gallbladder is only absent, then you can't take the fatty rich foods. So this bile juice helps in emulsification of fats. This is an important NEET question which they will ask. Where does emulsification of fats takes place? That is, it takes place in the bile juice. Next we come to pancreatic juice. Whereas pancreatic juice, they secrete so many enzymes. Mainly it contains inactive enzymes like trypsinogen, chemotrypsinogen, next amylase, as well as here also lipases are present. Lipases are present in bile juice as well as pancreatic juice. Mainly this pancreatic juice contains trypsinogen, chemotrypsinogen, amylases, lipases. Amylase we find in saliva also. Here also we will see pancreatic amylase. That is salivary amylase. This is pancreatic amylase. Whereas intestinal juice, this intestinal juice is also known as succus entericus. So what is the role of this intestinal juice, that is succus entericus? It also secretes numerous enzymes like dipeptidases, then lipases, disaccharides, dipeptidases, lipases. Numerous are secreted by this intestinal juice also. This intestinal juice mainly plays an important role in breakdown of carbohydrates, fats as well as proteins as well as nucleases also, means nucleic acids also. So this is about the intestine. In intestine also numerous movements takes place, like the stomach. So mainly it contains 3 types of secretions, that are bile juice, pancreatic juice as well as intestinal juice. This bile juice helps in secretion of bile salts, bile pigments, cholesterol as well as lipases, whereas this pancreatic juice, trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, amylase, these all you should remember, because in NEET they'll ask these questions only. Where is bile salts? This means here before bile will be present for everything, bile salts, but only you should remember that only lipases, cholesterol extra you should remember. Which helps in emulsification of fats means you should say bile juice. Whereas in pancreatic juice, trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, amylases, lipases, you should remember mainly pancreatic juice. Whereas in intestinal juice or succus entericus, mainly intestinal juice is also known as succus entericus. They will not ask you like in intestinal juice what are all the enzymes present. They will ask you in succus entericus, means that is nothing but intestinal juice. What are present? Mainly dipeptidases. What are dipeptidases? They help in breakdown of proteins. Then disaccharides, means carbohydrates. Nucleases, means nucleic acids. So this is about the mainly the process of the digestion. Next, from the intestine, this is passed into, means from small intestine to large intestine also, these all molecules should be passed. Mainly these all enzymes, they takes place in C-shaped duodenum. In C-shaped duodenum, these enzymes are broken down mainly in C-shaped duodenum. Then very few in ileum as well as jejunum, very few enzymes are broken down. Maximum enzymes are broken down in C-shaped duodenum. Maximum like carbohydrates, everything. Maximum digestion takes place in duodenum. Where does maximum digestion takes place? Means in duodenum. So from the small intestine, they are passed into large intestine. What are passed into large intestine? All the undigested particles, means the waste products are only passed, because maximum digestion takes place in duodenum only. In large intestine there are mainly 2 important functions in the large intestine. Large intestine means we already know the parts like cecum, colon, rectum. These all contribute to large intestine. What are only absorption of water as well as secretion of mucus. Only 2 important functions are present. That is water, absorption of water as well as mucus secretion. These 2 take place in the large intestine. Only these 2 are the functions. And from the large intestine, that is from cecum into the colon, the food have a sphincter. They have a sphincter known as ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve. From ileum, it is self-explanatory. From the ileum into the cecum, there is a valve that is present. That is ileocecal valve. It is a sphincter. Means what will happen? It allows the undigested part to move from ileum to cecum. Only it will allow to move. It prevents the backward flow of the food. This ileocecal valve prevents the backward flow of food back into the small intestine. Then through this ileocecal valve, it passes into colon, rectum, and finally through anus. It is sent out. The feces are temporarily stored in, this process fully is known as defecation. They are temporarily stored in rectum. The feces are stored in the rectum, and from the rectum they are passed out through anus. So this full process is known as digestion. Mainly how we will see now, how are carbohydrates digested, how are nucleases, proteins, fats digested. First about intestine we have dealt, next about the then C-shaped duodenum. Duodenum maximum digestion takes place. In ileum and jejunum very small amount takes place. Where does maximum digestion takes place means duodenum we say. Then from the small intestine they are passed into the large intestine by ileocecal valve. This valve prevents the backward flow of the food, means backward flow of the undigested food. Then temporarily they are stored in the rectum and they are passed out through anus. Large intestine, no digestion takes place in the large intestine. Only the absorption of water as well as the mucus is secreted in the large intestine. For now we will deal about how the carbohydrates are broken down, how are proteins broken down. So mainly the carbohydrates, those are polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are broken down into monosaccharides. Saccharides means what? Mainly carbohydrates. Polysaccharides means numerous carbohydrates molecules. These are broken down into simpler molecules by amylase that is present. Wherever you find how are carbohydrates broken, wherever you see the question, that is through amylase. Main enzyme which helps in breakdown of carbohydrates is through the enzyme amylase. Then next, proteins. How are proteins broken down? Proteins, they are broken down into amino acids or dipeptidases. They are broken down into dipeptides by, proteins are broken down into dipeptides by trypsin. Trypsin or chymotrypsin, anything we can say. Trypsin or chymotrypsin. Polysaccharides are broken down into monosaccharides, means carbohydrates. I will keep C, means carbohydrates by amylase. Proteins, they are broken down into dipeptides by trypsin. Trypsin or chymotrypsin. This is very important. You should listen carefully and note down them. Next, the nucleic acids, they are broken down into nucleotides. These nucleotides are again broken down into nucleosides. How are these broken down? By nucleases. So carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, next comes fats. How are fats broken down? Fats, what are the fats that are present? They are broken down mainly by lipases. Fats, they are broken down mainly by lipases into diglycerides. So this is about carbohydrates, proteins, nucleases as well as fats, how they are broken down. Polysaccharides are broken down into monosaccharides. Wherever you see how are carbohydrates broken, means through amylase. Amylase, that is pancreatic amylase as well as salivary amylase. Wherever you see, then it is amylase. How are proteins broken down? Proteins are broken down into dipeptides by trypsin or chymotrypsin. This you should remember because this here by name you can't understand. Here nucleic acids are broken down into nucleotides as well as sites by nucleases. See, by name only, nucleic acids, nucleases, ases, anything back means the suffix is ases, that is enzymes, it is related to enzymes. Fats, they are broken down into diglycerides by lipases. Lipases also I told you, for fats you should remember like lipases like that. So these are broken down like this. These monosaccharides, this is about carbohydrates, proteins as well as these. See, again in this only I will tell you in an easier manner. These dipeptides are again broken down into amino acids by dipeptidases. Dipeptidases means finally the product for proteins should be amino acids. See, proteins, they are broken down into dipeptides. Finally amino acids should be formed. Those dipeptides are again broken down into amino acids by dipeptidases. See, by this name only, dipeptidases. See here again nucleic acids into nucleosides by nucleases. These nucleotides again they are broken down by nucleotidases. Tidases. See, tidases. Again these nucleosides are broken down into sugars. These are again broken down into sugars by nucleosidases. Side. First is tidases. Then next is nucleosidases. Finally into sugar. These fats, they are again broken down into diglycerides by lipases. These diglycerides are again broken down into fatty acids and glycerol by again lipases. Here nothing difference, by lipases only. Again for carbohydrates, we'll deal next with carbohydrates. First initially see, proteins are broken down into dipeptides. Again they are broken down into amino acids by trypsin, then by dipeptidases. Nucleic acids are broken down into nucleotides as well as nucleosides by nucleases as well as tidases, sidases. You should remember in an order: acids, nucleotides, nucleosides, then sugars. Then fats, they are again broken down into diglycerides by lipases. Again by lipases, they are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. These fatty acids are directly digested and absorbed by the body. So why this whole process is only digestion? Means complex substances, whatever we consume, like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, they cannot be absorbed directly. They cannot be digested also. So they have to be broken down into simpler molecules. This full process takes place daily in our stomach as well as in the intestine. The carbohydrates, maltose, lactose as well as sucrose. Means this maltose is broken down into two glucose molecules. Glucose plus glucose, two glucose molecules. This lactose is broken down into glucose plus galactose. Whereas sucrose is broken down into glucose as well as fructose. This maltose, mainly these three components are carbohydrates. How are these digested? This maltose is broken down into two glucose molecules. How is maltose? Important, this very important neat question, because frequently they will ask this question. In maltose, how they are broken down into. Next in MBBS also they will ask you. This is the main important topic in biochemistry. Okay. So maltose is broken down into two glucose molecules by maltases. Self-explanatory. Lactose is broken down into glucose and galactose by lactases. Whereas sucrose is broken down into glucose and fructose by sucrases. All the majority of the carbohydrates are digested by the enzyme known as amylase. Whereas maltose, lactose, sucrose, these three types are digested like this. But they'll ask you how is sucrose formed. Means 1 glucose, 1 fructose, sucrose. 2 glucose, maltose. 1 glucose, 1 galactose is lactose. Lactases, maltases as well as sucrases. So this is about the digestion of carbohydrates. Next we will deal with absorption of food. Till now we have dealt with the digestion of food. Next we are going to deal with absorption of food. How does absorption of food takes place? Absorption, what is the process of absorption? First initially what is absorption? Absorption means whatever the digested particles, they should be absorbed by our body or else it goes waste. Like whatever food we consume, everything should be absorbed by our body. Then only we get energy and we can do our daily activities. How this is absorbed? This is by the process of absorption. How these are getting absorbed? By 3 types of absorption. First, the digested particles, they should get absorbed into the blood first. Then this process is known as absorption. From the blood, they should get absorbed into the tissues. This process is known as assimilation. Assimilation. First, how the digested particles, they should get absorbed into the blood. How they will get absorbed? By the process of absorption. From blood again they should go into tissues also, that is organs. For every organ they should get the food supply should be there. Then that is through assimilation. Mainly this absorption only we will deal. This is of 3 types. That is by simple diffusion, as well as next by active transport, then next by facilitated transport. What are these 3 types? Simple diffusion means glucose, majority of the amino acids, they are absorbed by simple diffusion, they will get absorbed. Whereas active transport, normally transport of water takes place towards the osmotic gradient. Means towards the osmotic gradient only takes place. But this active transport here, this takes place against the concentration gradient. It takes place against the concentration gradient. Whereas facilitated transport, this takes place with the help of carrier proteins. Here also glucose and amino acids only, whereas in facilitated also glucose and amino acids only. But simpler form of glucose and amino acids, very simple form, takes place by simple diffusion, by exchange, simple diffusion only. These glucose and amino acids, they are passed. Whereas in active, it takes place against the concentration gradient. Here also glucose and amino acids are absorbed. Whereas in the facilitated transport, carrier proteins, there is a special mechanism called as carrier proteins. Through this carrier proteins only facilitated transport takes place. So this is through facilitated transport. Glucose and amino acids are absorbed. So these are the 3 types of absorption. How are fats absorbed into the body? All carbohydrates, proteins, they all are absorbed through simple diffusion, active as well as facilitated transport. Whereas the fats which are present, they are insoluble. They are present in insoluble form. So they cannot be directly absorbed by the body. So how they are absorbed? They are absorbed they are converted into micelles. Simpler form means they are converted into micelles. These micelles are again converted into chylomicrons. Chylomicrons. These are again converted into chylomicrons. These chylomicrons are again converted into, move into lymph vessels, then into blood. For everything, carbohydrates, proteins, everything are digested through these three mechanisms, but fats only, because they are insoluble form, they are always present in insoluble form, they are not absorbed directly, so they are converted into micelles. How are fats converted? They are converted into small droplet like structures called as micelles. These micelles are again converted into chylomicrons. These micelles are layered by outside fat globules. Then these are known as chylomicrons. From these chylomicrons, they first pass into the lymph vessels, then into blood finally. So this full process is known as how these fats are digested. Finally, again the undigested particles or the unabsorbed particles, finally they move into the large intestine and they are stored temporarily in the rectum till defecation, and finally through the anus. Mainly the absorption takes place in 4 parts. That is, absorption mainly takes place in 4 parts. That is, it takes place in mouth, then it takes place in the stomach, then in small intestine, finally takes place in large intestine. So mouth, how they are through mouth? Most of the drugs are absorbed through mouth. Drugs means what? Whatever medicines which we take. If we get some fever or something, we'll take tablets. Most of them, they are absorbed in the mouth itself. So most of the drugs, they are absorbed in the mouth. Whereas in stomach, mainly alcohol, sugar, water. Mainly these 3 are absorbed through the stomach. Alcohol, sugar as well as water. These 3 are mainly absorbed in the stomach. Whereas in small intestine, majority of the nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, everything are absorbed in the small intestine. Glucose, amino acids, majority takes place in the small intestine absorption. Large intestine we have already discussed. Only absorption of water takes place through large intestine. Except water, nothing else will happen in large intestine. Only the absorption of water takes place in the large intestine. So this is about the process of absorption. What is absorption initially? Majority, the digested particles are converted into blood. That is, they pass into the blood by the process of absorption. From blood to tissues also again they should be passed. How? By the process of assimilation. Mainly this absorption is 3 types. Simple diffusion, simply smaller molecules of glucose, they are absorbed through simple processes. Whereas in facilitated transport, carrier proteins are present. Whereas in the facilitated transport, then active transport, takes place against the concentration gradient. Mainly fats, because they are insoluble, they are first converted into micelles. These are small droplet like structures, then into chylomicrons, and finally they are transported into the lymph and then into the blood. So mainly the absorption takes place in these 4 parts. Now important NEET question which is asked, where does maximum absorption of nutrients takes place? Maximum absorption of nutrients takes place in the small intestine. Where is water maximum it takes place? That is in the large intestine, absorbed. In the stomach, alcohol, sugar, water, like that very small components takes place in the stomach. Mouth means most of the drugs. These takes place in the mouth. Next we are going to deal with disorders that are associated with digestion and absorption. Mainly we all know about this, what are the disorders that are present. We all know what are the disorders that are associated. Mainly the disorders which are associated are, first one is jaundice. What is jaundice? We see some of our relatives will get jaundice like that. Means we see their yellow color eyes will be there. That is curable in some cases. In some cases it is not curable. Yellow colored eyes, yellow colored skin. If you see any people with yellow colored skin or yellow colored eyes, means darkish yellow, not their skin tone. Darkish colored yellow, then they are suffering from jaundice. Why it is yellow in color? Because deposition of bile pigments takes place. Means in the skin as well as eyes, there will be deposition of bile pigments. Next, vomiting. We see vomiting, ejection of contents from the stomach. After going into small intestine, the food, we won't get vomiting. Only when the food is present till the stomach, in the stomach, then only ejection of contents through the stomach, means ejection is by vomiting. Then we have diarrhea. Diarrhea is abnormal bowel movement, means increased fluidity discharge is diarrhea. Then diarrhea, then jaundice, constipation. Constipation means here increased fluidity discharge as well as abnormal bowel movement. Here irregular bowel movement, means bowel movement does not take place regularly, irregularly. Next, indigestion. By term only it is self-explanatory. Indigestion means by term only it is those particles are not digested. So we will feel some fullness in the stomach and all. That is known as indigestion. So these are the 5 disorders which are associated. First is jaundice, deposition of yellow color pigments. Why it becomes yellow in color is due to deposition of bile juice. Vomiting, ejection of contents through the stomach. Diarrhea, increased fluidity discharge. Constipation means irregular bowel movements. Indigestion is the food is not properly digested. And this is extra information which I am giving. That is kwashiorkor as well as marasmus. Also protein energy malnutrition. These two are also the diseases, marasmus. Also these two are the diseases that are associated with protein energy malnutrition. In kwashiorkor, there is only protein deficiency. If we see some only protein deficiency will be present. Whereas in marasmus, protein plus calorie deficiency is present. Protein deficiency as well as calorie deficiency. Kwashiorkor we see in more than 1 year age child. More than 1 year. Below 1 year if you see, then it is marasmus. Below 1 year. So what will happen in marasmus? There will be thinning of limbs, wasting of muscles. Thinning of limbs means the hands and legs, everything will be very thin. Thin limbs will be there. Wasting of muscles will be there. Wasting of muscles means where there will be less muscles as well as thin limbs and poor development will be there, poor growth and development for that child. Whereas in kwashiorkor, same thin limbs, wasting of muscles, poor growth and development, everything will be seen. But additionally, there will be edema as well as swelling. Swelling as well as edema will be present. So, kwashiorkor and marasmus are protein calorie malnutrition. Marasmus, this is about protein and calorie malnutrition. It takes place in below 1 year of age children only. Thin limbs as well as wasting of muscles will be seen. In kwashiorkor, there is protein deficiency, and in more than 1 year age students we see, that is edema as well as swelling will be seen in majority. So this is today's topic. We have dealt with digestion and absorption. Next class we will